What's up, everybody? I'm here in the studio today with Mr. Random Rab. Just played a show in Victoria last night, and he's been nice enough to cruise by and spend a little bit of time with us and talk shop, talk music production, talk music business, and we've got a little bit of time with him before he has to hit the ferry on the next stop in his tour. So thank you so much for joining
absolutely.
us, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Awesome. So we have chatted and done an interview before, so this will be a cool opportunity for a follow-up. And some of you on the channel may have seen that previous interview. If you haven't, definitely check it out. I'll put a link below in the video. But we're going to be talking about kind of what's happened in the last couple of years for you. And the place I'd like to start is with your last couple of releases. And I, of course, had a great opportunity to hear your new stuff at the show last night. But I would have to say, yeah, it's I've been following you for a long time, and it's been neat to see the evolution. So, yeah, could you fill me in a bit on kind of what the past couple of years have looked like for you as far as musical direction?
Yeah, well, since last we spoke, I've released a couple albums, and you know, the one before this last one was a kind of a more organic collaboration with a lot of live percussion and sort of more formulated from a live perspective, where this last one was like really focused on more electronic, but then also using a lot of analog gear and analog summing. So in some ways more electronic, but also, you know, in a lot in the analog realm. So it kind of has that, like, it's the acoustic of the electronic world, you know. So that's what I've been really getting into with this last album, was really just trying to capture the pristine quality of these amazing new and old analog synths and different things, and trying to just, so the recording process is more focused on the minutia, the detail of really getting the best possible recording and how to mix everything together using analog summing and different techniques. And for some reason using that technique seemed to make sense with making this faster kind of 4 on the floor music, which is, I think, more heavily featured on this last album than any of my other albums.
Totally.
So, and even though I think a lot, as any electronic artist probably has dabbled in it or started in it, and like I know I started on the 4 on the floor thing and then moved away from it, got into the down tempo thing, and sort of coming home in a way to kind of experiment again and not be so focused on the broken or the kick drum. You know, I don't know, I'm sure your audience knows 4 on the floor is when the kick drum is a steady 1, 2, 3, 4, rather than like a hip hop beat or something where it's a broken beat. For sure,
like a house beat.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so that's been kind of the on this last album, that was the territory I dabbled in, and now I'm kind of, this new album that I'm working on now that's not going to be coming out probably this year, it's going back to like the super slow down tempo. So
nice.
Anyway, just kind of exploring different realms and having fun with it.
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting to hear, like, you know, you have your roots and then you deviate from that, and like a lot of people, like for myself, I hadn't heard you do 4 on the floor stuff before. So for me, hearing this stuff was all new. But I think, yeah, that playing with where you came from, where you're going, broken beat, it's been neat to see you move around as an artist, because I think you know, it's easy to get into a rut for some people and get into you know, a template way of doing things, but shaking up the way that you record and shaking up the way that your process works can yield wonderfully different results.
It can, and access different people, and some people will go with you and some people won't, but you just got to keep doing what you do, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think what struck me about your releases is they still have that signature sound to them, right? In that they're created by you. So that, you know, the tempo might change and the structure of the beat might change, but it still has a Random Rab element to it. Yeah. Which is something that everybody does strive for as an artist, to have that oh, you can recognize that tune as a...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I almost can't even help it at this point. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's funny, I had a chat with Vibe Squad a little while ago when he was here on tour, and he said, you know, I've tried to make basses in other ways, but invariably whatever it comes down to is always a saw wave on top of a sine wave.
Yeah.
And some permutation of that. He's like, I try to deviate, but it always comes back to that because that's what sounds good to him, and that's a key part of his music. So yeah, very cool. I'd love to talk a little bit about who you're collaborating with, because I know you've done a lot of work. You had a great tune you played last night that you did with Kyrstyn Pixton. I love her work as well. You have vocals and instruments on a lot of your tracks, and I know you do some of that stuff yourself, but you also do a lot of collaboration work. So who have you been working with on this last album and on this new one?
Yeah, well, some of the more recent collaborators are Kyrstyn Pixton, who's an incredible producer and vocalist and lyricist and just an all-around just amazing artist. And so we've been working on a few things together, which is amazing. Ilya Goldberg, of course, Lapa, who we've produced many tracks together. He's the violin player for Emancipator and also produces as Lapa. Pia, Lucy, who has done some vocals with me. So who are some of the other ones? Dave Mellish, who is, he's kind of an up and coming. He's just released out this Bird's Eye album, which is going to be incredible. And see, I'm trying to think of all the different people I've been collaborating with. It just seems like it's been doing a lot of remote collaborations and remixes and stuff. Just did some, CloZee just did a remix for me. We're going to do a little tour together, and I've been working on a remix for her. So that's like, there's like collaboration and then remix trades and stuff.
Awesome.
I'm not sure if
CloZee's
fantastic. She's phenomenal.
I played one of her tunes in my set last night earlier on. Yeah, she I've been following her since her first couple of releases. Ilya actually turned me on to her. They've done some work together too, and I think she's done some releases on Gravitas Records with Jesse Breed, who was one of the guys who helped us build our website. And
she did a remix for my song 39 Circles, and it was one of those moments when I heard it. The album hadn't even come out yet, and I was like, I think her remix needs to be on the album, and my song needs to be the remix because it's so epic. It just takes it to this whole majestic place. So I love that when you hear somebody take what you've started and just go completely awesome with it. So
no doubt.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's neat to see you collaborating with so many people. And do you think that because of the amount that you tour, you have more opportunities to collaborate through people that you meet on tour? Or
I would say probably it's almost the opposite. And I mean, I personally have really I'm not a big fan of remote collaboration if possible. I like, especially starting a song with someone like in my studio, like, or their studio. Like, I really want to be face to face. Maybe if we finish the track and then we take it, send a couple of the files back and forth. But starting just like a brand new project with somebody online doesn't. I don't know. There's something about just being together in the same room and talking, sharing space, seeing if you like feel each other, the vibe, and that's what it's all about. So in some ways, collaborating can be kind of challenging in that way because I just don't have time, quite often, or we don't sync up. However, where I live in Ashland, that's kind of like on the way to so many places. So I do feel like there's like people coming through, and you get that one night shot, with the people coming through. It's like, come on the studio and bang it out and
nice.
See you later. So
you'll catch people when they're coming through
that's
on tour,
been
create that vibe in person.
That's the best way it's been working. Yeah.
Awesome. And then finish things up
and then
online if you need to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you using any of the kind of cloud-based online collaboration tools like Splice or Dropbox or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Dropbox. That's like my main file sharing software. I did do a couple tracks on Splice, which I think, it's a pretty cool way of doing it. I just kind of just went back to Dropbox, though. We just kind of felt that it's more of a file management issue. I just felt like it forces you to use a different folder structure, and then I got, even though I know they set it up to work in such a way that it's to keep things organized, I found it really disorganizing because I didn't know which versions were, if it was my version on my hard drive, the version on Splice, or the version on my friend's hard drive.
Gotcha.
So we have all these different folders floating around, and it's like, how about we just send this back and forth rather than, but I do think it's a great idea and a powerful collaborative tool, The biggest issue that I run into when collaborating with people is generally like, they have a plugin I don't have, or vice versa. That seems to be the main issue.
The number one.
So,
yeah. One of the things I thought was neat about Splice is a lot of artists are putting their project files on the DNA player now, where people can download them or load them up and look at how they're produced and see the individual tracks, solo and mute things and stuff like that. And I've had a lot of my students coming to me and saying, hey, I grabbed this project on Splice and could we take a look at it? And like, it has some really neat stuff they're doing production wise and things like that. So I think that's a neat layer they've added in that's
It is
different
cool.
from what Dropbox
Mm-hmm.
does. Very cool. Sweet. So maybe we can talk a bit about this this tour that you've set up. So you're coming through Canada in January.
Yes.
What made you think that?
I have no idea. How did we get here?
The reason why I'm wearing this toque, this hat, is because it is cold here.
The Great White North. I don't know. I heard from several people that it was a good idea, and it seems, so far so good. I mean, I knew at first I was like, no, let's not do it. And then I thought about it more, and I was like, it's like I'd rather be in Canada in the winter than like Texas, where the weather is like completely unpredictable, and it's gonna be freezing rain one day and storm. It's just it's crazy.
We're just predictably frigid here.
It's just it's gonna be cold. It's probably gonna be really snowy.
Yeah.
That's
why we're all so skinny.
Yeah.
We're shivering all day
Yes.
long, and we're ripped. Just
But
shiver off all that body fat.
Yeah, but I got this van and been working. I've been probably spending more time working on my van than on music for this tour, just to get everything all ready to go. But so I'm actually really excited to just the adventure of it all. I mean, you only live once, and you only can tour for so long before it's
Sure.
like I want to just push it all the way. And so what kind of awesome, exciting adventures can we experience, and also just the people up here are so incredible and hardy people, and to see everybody in their element in these environments, I think is going to be, I'm really looking forward to the rest of this tour to experience the awesomeness of people up here.
Yeah. Well, it was great to see the draw that you had. I mean, it was a Wednesday night that you were here last night, and you had a good crowd out for this time of year on a weeknight.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to get people out on a weeknight, and you had like the heads that came out.
Cool. Yeah, it seemed like awesome. It was great.
Yeah.
Night. Yeah.
I always like to see the crowd that you draw, because it was like acupuncture practitioners and like homeopaths and naturopaths, and then like some people wearing spirit hoods, and like it was a really holistic and festival oriented crowd.
Nice.
Yoga teachers that were out and stuff like that.
Cool.
So
Cool.
with this tour in particular, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you managed setting it up. What went into creating this tour? Are you working with a booking agent, a manager, how they interact? What went into creating this tour on the business side of things?
Yeah, well, I guess I have a booking agent who also acts as my manager, and we, the first initial process is just sort of deciding kind of like what do we kind of generally want to do? Do we want to go the entire country? Do we want to just stay in a certain region, hit certain towns? And so we kind of hand select based on like what feedback I've gotten in the past, where I think my community might be, because I know as every artist is going to have their kind of niche crowd, and some towns are going to be better than others, and or just better as far as like the turnout and making it worth the whole trip.
Sure, more aligned with you and your sound.
Exactly. So based on past experience and stuff, it's really good to feel out and be selective, and not just kind of like it's easy to get in the music industry to kind of get, if you're not paying attention, you kind of get forced into this routing that's just kind of the same. You go hit the same markets, the college towns or whatever, and I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, no, I'd rather drive that extra 4 hours, or maybe not play tonight and maybe not make as much money, but feel more energized for the next show. Mm-hmm. So anyway, with this tour, was just sort of like picking the communities that we think it's going to work at. My booking agent, reaching out to the promoters, and also through, the contacts that I have through Shambhala Music Festival and Sarah Spicer up in Nelson, and the different, people that, the Motion Notion Festival and the different communities that have worked with me in the past.
Sure.
Using those kind of networks to feel out, where the best places to go. The people at Shambhala were really super helpful with this tour to kind of help promote it, and so yeah. And then from there, just kind of, I think it just takes on a life of its own, and you just kind of cross your fingers and hope the word gets out there and people come, and you know. But it's kind of a little bit of shot in the dark, for me. I've never toured up here, like never done a full Canadian tour, and also, like you said, in the winter and not at festivals. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you came up. Hopefully, it works out,
sure.
and you'll be able to come up again.
Yes, absolutely.
I think the first time I saw you was in Costa Rica at Envision,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a much more lush, warm environment, almost too warm in some cases.
Yeah.
I remember being out there at 3 a.m. and sweating buckets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but you played a wonderful sunrise set
Thanks.
on the last day of the festival, and I really enjoyed that. So.
Now, speaking of that, like we were saying before, it's like a lot of people like say, "Oh, I saw you at Envision and Sunrise," and then they come to see my show in like Pittsburgh on a Tuesday night. You're like, something's just not the same. I'm like, yeah, we're not in the jungle and it's not Sunrise.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. So after the Canadian leg of this tour, does it continue down in the States, or have you done that portion already?
Yeah, well, it's kind of, at this point, I'm like, when does tour begin and tour end? I don't even know. It's just kind of, it's sort of meshed into my life. But yes, I'm doing like a more, another, I guess it'd be a U.S. tour in April. And I'm going to be touring, I'm not sure if I should announce who I'm touring with at this point, but.
You can keep it under wraps. It's okay.
Yeah. But, so it's gonna be a phenomenal little tour, and so and then festival season, doing that again, and then hopefully I'm working on this new album. I'm trying to find a way to get it out this year as soon as possible. So I'm about halfway done with it. So that's the next big step right there.
So how do you balance writing music, which you primarily do in your studio at home, and then being on the road? Do you flip-flop between, work on a project for a bit and then go on tour, come back, work on a project for a bit, push it forwards? Or how do you manage that, being away from home and then being at home?
Yeah, it's not easy. I feel at least not easy for me. I feel I'm most creative in my studio at home, and I like to have many days of sort of space that I can work. And if I'm always going on the road, I get kind of thrown off, and I'll start a project, go play a show, come home, and then it's like I've kind of forgotten what I was doing or just lost my bearings. Yeah. And so I think it's really important to really put that time aside that like I'm going to work on music now. I'm going to unplug the internet. I'm going to use this time right now to focus on these next couple days. Like that's what I've been doing, bursts now. I found that for me it's more effective to have 3 days of just total hardcore. I'm a dad too, so I have a lot of other obligations, and so and then if I'm spending every day trying to get ready for tour, work on new tracks, be a dad, all these different things, and there's no time for anything, and everything suffers. So I like to take time and set it aside for everything specifically. Like today is going to be all about working on my vehicle, getting ready for tour, all the production stuff. These next 2 days are going to be all about the studio, and then I'm going to spend 4 days at home with my family and do all, and as opposed to just trying to do all the time every day. And you need
switching up so quickly, and it's hard to get into a groove. Anything doing that. Right?
Yeah, and just having like, I for me, I know in my studio it's like the real juice starts to happen about 4 hours in. After I've been in my studio for about 4 hours. Then things start to flow. So if you only have like 3 hours to go to your studio, starting a new song is almost like pointless, maybe thinking around with, technical stuff, installing software, that kind of thing. But the actual active production, like I'm going to be creating a new piece of music. I think it's important for me to have like 24 hours sort of like available to kind of just get that first burst of energy out. Because that's where the magic happens, and that's where like, most of the song is written, and then the rest of the time is spent sort of tweaking out the little details.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Okay. On this tour, I noticed your live show, your rig that you're using, has grown and become more complex and intricate and interesting. But could you tell me a bit about what you have that you're performing with?
Sure. Well, I just I used to do all live hardware back when I first started producing electronic music. I didn't have a computer, it was all drum machines, sampler, sequencers. And then when the computer world sort of came in, I would put all my energy into that, and for a long time, just performed with just my computer and then trying to reintegrate live musicians. And for a while I was trying to do my own instruments like bass and tambura and guitar and all these. And so for this current setup, I've sort of left all the acoustic instruments at home and have really been focusing on hardware integration with my computer. And so basically the gist of it is I've broken my songs out into stems, and so I can take like the kick drum off the computer and have it being played off of my Electribe or other and so using or the bass line can be playing off my Moog, and so I'm using the sequence off my computer, but the sound you're hearing is actually coming from an analog synth.
Okay.
And then I have my live looper and my vocal processor and doing a lot of live looping on my voice or different instruments. I have the option to loop anything I want. And of course you can loop in Ableton as well. So
you're using Ableton Live as the core?
The core,
yep. Are you using 9.5 yet?
I have 9.5 at home. I'm not using it live right now. I should make the leap. It's kind of like one of those things that, it's working right now really solidly. So
sometimes it's good not to change things, especially when you're on tour.
Yeah, exactly. I think when I have some time to really sit down and upgrade that, I will. I don't need it at this point yet. I know there's some advantages to it. Like I'm excited about the link and the using multiple laptops is sort of I think the next thing for me is to be able to sync everything up. But yeah, I think it's just like for me, it gives me the ability to improvise and experiment and create new songs on the fly and just have more fun, and also it's a lot more like up in the air, like what's going to be like tonight, where are we going to go, I can kind of do it the way it's on the album, or I can do it completely different. It just kind of gives me that freedom, just so. And I'd like to even have more, as time goes on, I've started gotten the bug and but it's really about I think it's just important. Like I still want the sound to be as good as possible. So I find that when you have lots of hardware, you can easily lose control, of the quality of the sound, especially on big sound systems. Where at home, it's like, oh, it sounds great, and you get out and you're like, whoa, why does it sound so weird? Because it's those little fractions of, volume makes such a difference.
Sure.
So. So it's a work in progress, I'll see the next iteration. I think I'm going to bring my tube compressors and I have a Manly and different things. I'm going to try and do more live mastering while I'm playing.
Yeah.
And so
you have a massive passive?
I have the Veramu.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
I like a massive passive.
Yeah, wouldn't we all?
Yeah. But using a mastering chain, and then perhaps my friend's Phoenix valve compressor as well. But basically, because that's the issue I find with hardware a lot of times is that it kind of jumps out of the music when you're mixing it with Ableton, which is more contained,
Yep.
So how do you keep everything to sound gelled,
So you're running Ableton Live as the brain, and then it is in some cases you're triggering it with the APC-40 Mark II. I noticed.
Yes.
You're using that to trigger clips and scenes and to do your mixing. With?
Yep.
Okay. And then Ableton Live is sending some MIDI information out to your Moog. Okay. And which Moog is it that you have?
I have a Sub-Fatty.
Yeah. That sounded great.
And I have a separate channel in Ableton that has all my MIDI clips.
Yep.
That will send it to the Moog.
So do you bring audio from the Sub-Fatty back into Live or into your mixer?
Right now I'm bringing it into my mixer.
So you have a hardware mixer that everything comes into. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm doing analog mixing.
Yeah.
So I have done it into the Ableton too, but they have latency issues and stuff a little slightly, Yeah.
A couple milliseconds.
Yeah. It's not really that big of a deal, but I do like having the quality of the sound be a little bit more kind of pristine and like that. Then I have some effects and some analog delay and I also have it routed to so my Electribe, which it's an old machine, but I just love the sound quality of it. It has a tube drive on it.
Yeah.
And I can use that as well to control the Moog the MIDI out. So I can do. It's a little bit easier to come up with a sequence on the fly with the Electribe than it is on Ableton. And then from there branching out to I have my TC Helicon Voice Live Touch 2 for my voice.
So I noticed that you had one main mic and you had the TC Helicon attached to the mic stand.
Yes.
And you're using that it's a vocal processing unit.
For my vocal processing. Yeah. And I have that with MIDI in too, so I can do synced stuff. And that's going into right now I'm going into a feedback destroyer that goes into my RC505 live looper.
Yep.
So and I have an instrument input as well that I can send an aux channel. I can send anything I want to the looper basically.
Okay.
And I know Ableton has a great looping function, and probably going to be using more of that if I were to have a separate laptop. But I do like the hardware interface of just having, like, when I'm doing my vocals and I like don't want to be looking at anything, or I want to just have that freedom to. When you're doing your voice too, sometimes you like something happens and it creates this weird sound and you don't know what to do, and it's good to have that like safety valve to be able, like, I can just turn my looper off.
Yeah.
Start fresh. If I'm doing it all in Ableton and it's all happening in Ableton, then I kind of get, it can get a little crazy for me. So I like having that hardware looping. And it's not perfect, but it does the job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice. The TC Helicon is something I've been quite curious about.
Mm-hmm.
What type of effects are you using in it? Is it doing vocal tuning, harmonies, anything like that?
I am definitely using the harmony function a lot, and of course the reverb delay. I think it has a nice tone function that really. There's something about it when I use it. It feels like it really sits in the mix well, and that's the number one thing I like about it. Is the tone, and then it's got a really nice reverb and delay. It's very subtle. You don't have a lot of control over kind of the tweakability, I feel like, with a lot of the effects, like delay and
kind of set it up and leave it like that for your set.
Yeah, you can just kind of turn things on and off, but you have a lot of preset options and stuff. I think the harmonies are really fun to mess around with.
So that's incredible. It can do real time harmonies.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have to program those with MIDI, sending MIDI in so it knows what pitch to play, or?
Right now I've gotten it down where I have each key kind of as a preset.
Okay.
So, if I want to do E major, I can just go to that preset. And if, let's say, I want to do the same thing, but I want to do an A major, I'll quite often just use that same one and go in there and then change it to A major.
Okay.
I just know the keys that I'm working in.
And what does it stack, like a perfect fifth or a
Well,
third,
it has the option. There's another sub menu that gives you like the option, like which ones you want, third, fifth, octave.
So you can build like triads in there if you
want
to, for example.
So you can kind of construct, the way that you want the chord to sound. And then I think it's good to kind of not just turn it on and just let it go forever, because it can get kind of overwhelming to have the same kind of like chord structure, or just kind of get boring.
Yeah,
so
it gets boring after a while.
Turn it on and off and use it subtly with the looper. I like, doing an octave thing down, and and it can just be really fun, especially with the live looping. It's just like with that, a kick drum and a snare, and my live looper, I can just go for days just making stuff up, and
no doubt.
So
very cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you so much. It's always great to have you in the studio and to have you sharing your knowledge with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's really great to have somebody who's successful in their career and has been doing this for a long time come out and benevolently share that knowledge. So we really appreciate it, and hope you have a great time on the rest of your tour, bro.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
I love you all so much. Thank you for coming tonight. Much love.